Good. All right. Wonderful. Good. It looks like people are slowly migrating to the new live stream. That is wonderful. Well, as I was saying before, namaste, everyone. People may have seen that we had a little technical difficulty. It wasn't on our end, it was on YouTube's end. And there's no real explanation for what's happened, but as people can tell, the last live stream was having problems and it decided to end itself, so we had no choice but to start a new one. But I see very nicely everyone is now migrating to the new live stream. So as I was saying before, we were very rudely interrupted by the powers that be. Namaste, everyone, and it is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you for our live stream. This is the live stream of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. This is a live stream at Satsanga, and we do this every single Sunday without fail. And before I leap into the talk for today, I just wanted to say a few things very, very quickly. First of all, for those individuals who have been sending us incense, thank you very, very much. We truly appreciate it. Everyone here in the temple is looking at our mound of incense here. We have so much incense now that we're probably good for a very long time. I don't think we've ever had so much incense to the point where the other day we were looking for a nice basket to put all the incense in and then have it under the altar. But again, for those of you who have sent incense, thank you so much. I won't mention his last name, but the last batch of incense thus far came from Jason. Jason, thank you so much. I'll also contact you privately as well, and thank you for that. So again, we are good with incense. If you're inspired to keep sending more, please feel free, but otherwise, we, I think, are set for quite some time. And again, before I leap into things, I want to mention to people that we have our Discord server, the ISDS Discord server, which is a discussion forum where we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of devotees from literally all over the world. It shocks me to this day sometimes, actually, that maybe someone who hasn't commented very much at all will make a comment and say, oh yes, I'm from such and such nation, I'm from Cambodia, I'm from, one of the more smaller, more obscure nations in Europe or something like that. And it just truly amazes me what an international audience and group of people we have on Discord. So if no one has done it yet, I see very good, someone already has. So the link is there. Please feel free to join our Discord forum. And when you're on there, you will see that there is discussion that takes place 24/7, where people can ask questions and encourage each other and speak together about how to increase their knowledge and practice of Sanatana Dharma. The last thing I wanted to say was this, and that is the ISDS itself is a very rapidly growing movement. And I've said that for several years now because it's been true for several years. Really, I'm not sure exactly how long, maybe 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. It's been growing and growing and growing. And we want it, of course, to continue to grow. The reason why it has grown so well, so rapidly, is because of all of our devotees who are indeed throughout the world. And I do my part, I do my small part. I give these lectures, write books, etc., try to guide my students. But the truth of the matter is the reason why we have grown is because of, indeed, all of our students, all of our sincere devotees throughout the world. And what they do is that they engage with other people, and mostly online, also in person as well, face to face. But as I've said many times, people's minds today are online. That's where people are. So we have had so many of our devotees very successfully, not preaching, but sharing in a very nice way, in a very humble way, sharing Sanatana Dharma with the world. And let me just say, for those of you who have been here with us for some time, who are sincere, who you have benefited so much from this channel and from the videos, the books, etc. Many of you are on Discord already. I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so, to please do the same. And that is wherever you can, with family, with friends. And again, in a humble way, not bothering people. We don't believe in preaching at people. But we do believe in sharing this message, because this is a message, the message of Sanatana Dharma, that is destined to transform the entire face of the earth. As I've said before, quite literally every single blade of grass. But it will only do that if we do this in service to God, in service to Sriman Narayana. So indeed, in whatever way you need to, taking links to, we have, I think, at least 300 videos now just on YouTube alone. We have videos on other platforms that are not even on YouTube. Take all those links, as many as you can, whatever seems appropriate at the time. Take links to our books, take links to dharmacentral.com, our main website. And please, very gently, nicely, again, in a humble way, share these links with people throughout the world in any way that you can. Engage in discussions with sincere people, people who have some humility, people who have honesty, etc. And in that way, tell them about our work, tell them about this movement. If they are ultra sincere, meaning that you've been speaking with them in dialogue for quite some time, ask them to join our Discord server, where they can engage in discussion again 24/7 if they so desire. And in this way, we want this movement to continue growing. This is all as an aside. I've just been inspired to say this. Let me tell you that recently, meaning in recent weeks, we have had meetings with all of our top leaders of the ISDS. And that means quite a few people now, actually. Even just the top leaders alone, it's not like 3 people. We're talking about a few dozen people. And yes, we know we are going to grow exponentially, and we have been planning for large groups of people coming in. This is our concern now. Our concern is not so much, oh, will we grow? No, the concern now is as we grow and as people come into the ISDS, are we equipped to accommodate them, to help them, to encourage them, to give them the information they need, etc., etc., etc. So indeed, this is how much we are planning on growing, is that's what we're discussing now. How do we accommodate all the newcomers who are coming to us, even right now, and then what to speak of in the future. I'm guessing that within the next few years, and I've learned these days to not put an exact number on things, within the next few years, the ISDS is going to grow without exaggeration tenfold. So indeed, let me tell you, behind the scenes, we have been preparing the infrastructure for this. But we can only do this with your help. And your help has been tremendous, and I personally appreciate it more than I can say. So thank you. And with that, we're going to go on to the talk for today. And what we are going to be talking about is actually a topic that is crucial for people today. And that is how to have control over one's mind. You know, when we examine ourselves, I'll get to the world in a second. Let's start with ourselves as individuals. When we look at ourselves, we know that for the vast majority of us, for the vast majority of individuals, our minds are chaotic. Our minds are not under our control. Our minds are going on almost 24 hours a day. Indeed, one could argue that even as we're sleeping, we're dreaming. So the mind is going on then. But then especially during the waking times, when we're just doing things in the world, our minds are just constantly going. And this was the case for a lot of people 50 years ago, before there was any of the technology that we have today, before there were smartphones, before there were, of course, computer games, before there was the internet, etc., etc., etc. Even, in the 70s, this was the case. Now it is a problem that is so bad to the point where there is almost no one out there who won't admit that, oh yes, having a controlled mind is almost impossible. And what does that mean? That means the mind is constantly chattering. No matter what we're doing, even when we think we're sitting peacefully and we're reading a book or something, we're reading a book, but in the backdrop, our mind is commenting. We have images, visuals, our mind is going back to previous memories and then worrying about the future, etc., etc., etc. All that as we're trying to relax. What to speak of then, just daily life, when we're at work, going to work, when we're doing things with other people. So of course, people understand that when we have an uncontrolled mind, this is not a good thing. Indeed, when we have an uncontrolled mind, what does this mean? Well, first of all, obviously we don't have peace. Because if our body were constantly in motion, we know we wouldn't have peace. We know we would be agitated. You see, when we choose to be physically active, we choose to go to the gym, I have to do a little bit of work, that's one thing. But imagine if we had no choice and, oh my Lord, I'm tired and I would like to sit and rest, but no, you have to keep working, you have to keep doing physically. We know that would drain us of all energy. Well, what of the mind? The mind is similar to the body in that respect, in that it has a finite amount of energy. And yet it is going and going and going and going constantly. So what does this produce? All of the internal problems, the problems that people can't necessarily see externally, they can see the results, the resultant effects. But you can't really so much see all the people around you who are going through inner turmoil, as they have anxiety, as they have worry, as they are unable to control their impulses, again, because of this uncontrolled mind. So, indeed, this is why in yoga spirituality, very specifically, it explains to us, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is the definition of yoga, according to Patanjali. And that is, what is yoga? Yoga is the stilling of the modifications. What's meant by the modifications? The craziness of the mind. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is the second verse of the Yoga Sutras. Well, this is what we're going to be talking about today, is precisely how to control the mind. And in fact, before we dive into the, I believe, 6 or so verses that we're going to look at, let me just talk about this for a moment. Indeed, we know that our minds are uncontrolled. We know that, like any tool, if you have a tool and it's uncontrolled, well, that's a terrible thing. Imagine that you have a lawnmower, a powerful one. Imagine if you have, some sort of dangerous instrument, some sort of dangerous tool, like an electric tool, and it suddenly decides to start doing its own thing. You have no control over it. One of my students here was laughing hysterically at the image of that. But imagine that you have some sort of tool. You have a lawnmower in your house and it's going wild, it's going crazy, and you're chasing after it, trying to stop it, and it's almost like it has a mind of its own and it's running away from you, it's wrecking your furniture, etc. Well, that is the uncontrolled mind. We know our physical body is powerful. Imagine if your physical body was not under your control. There are some illnesses where the physical body is not under your control. It's terrible. I've known people that have Parkinson's, different things where their body will move and they have no choice in the matter. Well, imagine the mind. The mind is so much more powerful than the physical body. And not having control over that mind, you are not having control over a tool like that lawnmower, like anything else. And that being the case, if you are not in control of this powerful tool that is a part of who you are as a human person, how can you accomplish anything of value, of worth in this world? How can you be successful? If your primary tool that you're using to be successful in this world is something you don't have control over. So this is why it's crucial to indeed have that control over the mind. Now, it's interesting. And again, this is just as a preface before we even dive into the verses. What is the opposite of an uncontrolled mind? Now, many people would guess many different things. They would say, peace. They would say calm. They would say so many different things, and they're not incorrect, actually. These are aspects of the opposite. But interestingly, what is at the very root of the opposite of an uncontrolled mind is awareness. Awareness. Interestingly, not even a controlled mind. Again, a person might even say that. But how do you achieve that? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is at the foundational root of a controlled mind? The opposite of an uncontrolled mind is pure awareness. And this is why, indeed, this is what the mind of the accomplished yogi is often described as, being aware. This is the goal of yoga. This is the goal of meditation. Now, general awareness, sure, yes. Awareness in every sense, actually. I forget when it was. I think it was a few live streams back where I talked about how do you know a yogi? Indeed, awareness. A yogi is aware of everything happening at any given time. It may not look like they are, but they are aware. They're aware of everything happening internally with them, everything that is happening externally, everything that they're saying. They're aware of the people around them. They're aware of quite literally everything that's occurring at any given time and always. This is the definition of a yogi. In the same way, when it comes to an uncontrolled mind, indeed, the opposite of that is to have supreme awareness, controlled awareness, in such a way that with that awareness, what comes about is calm. What comes about is wisdom. What comes about is that indeed we achieve that yogic state of stilling all these modifications. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. And indeed, we're going to go through again the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. Again, I've said that this is a work that I read, 30 years ago maybe for the first time. And I began reading it again at this point, maybe 6 months ago or so, several months ago. And I remembered on the second reading just how profound this work is. And indeed, we're going to be going through for the next maybe few weeks an entire section that goes very deeply and somewhat esoterically into yoga, the yoga system. So this will be the beginning of our going through this section of the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. So we will begin with this very important topic. How do we gain control over our own mind? So with that, let's start. And we will begin with, again, Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And this will be chapter 10 and verse 28. And this verse proceeds in this way. It is indeed difficult to keep the mind under control. By long practice, however, the mind must attain the state of uprooting material desire. Nice, very nice verse, very nice way to, in fact, begin what we're going to be speaking of. So let's start with the first sentence. So again, it is indeed difficult to keep the mind under control. Everyone knows this. The only person who would deny this is a fool. The only person who would deny this is someone who is so arrogant and egotistical they're lying to themselves. Oh, I have complete control of my mind. No, you don't. Oh, have you been meditating for 40 years? Oh, that's a different story. Meditating every single day, not skipping days, not, there were a few months back there when I just didn't really, no. Every single day for 40 years. Oh, yes, then of course, you probably have pretty good control over your mind. But the average individual, no. I've literally done experiments with classes, actually. Everything from high school classes, college classes, all sorts of things, where I'll challenge people. All right, this is what we're going to do. And I'll pick something, an elephant, and I'll go into description. This is what the elephant looks like, etc. For the next 90 seconds, you are to think of nothing but that elephant. And of course, people can't do it. People can't do it. And you try experiments like this, and indeed what we see is it is difficult to control the mind. When Krishna and Arjuna are speaking in Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna is explaining the yoga system to Arjuna himself, and keep in mind who Arjuna is. Arjuna is not some person addicted to playing video games, living in his parents' basement. Arjuna was not some person getting his information from watching lots and lots and lots and lots of YouTube videos and listening to podcasts. Arjuna was the greatest, most disciplined, most fierce warrior of his day. He was the sort of individual who he had the ability to defeat 10,000 enemy soldiers by himself. This was a man who had discipline. Again, not the common person of today playing on the internet. This was the real thing. This was a Dharma warrior. And what did he say to Krishna? He said to Krishna, oh, Krishna, thank you. This is wonderful information, but let me please tell you, it is easier to control the wind than to control one's own mind. Oh, how do I do this? Arjuna says this to Krishna. So indeed, it's difficult. So this beginning of this section is saying this. But now let's go on. By long practice, however, let's stop there. So it first begins by making this very clear. Oh, the mind, oh yes, it's difficult. It's very difficult to control it, but not impossible. Not impossible. By long practice. So again, we need to make this very clear. Spirituality is a long-term procedure. It's something that is long-term. It's something that's lifetime. Any person who you will make the mistake of listening to anywhere, you buy their book somewhere, you see them on television, interviewed by someone, you see a YouTube video, etc., etc., etc. And if they try, and they're trying their best to give you the impression that, no, we can have enlightenment faster than you think. No, those ancient people, they thought it took forever. No, I'm going to teach you how to have enlightenment in 30 days. That is a fraud. By definition, that is a fraud. Because no, it takes long practice. Indeed, like with anything of importance, it is a practice that is a lifetime practice. You want to practice spirituality, meditation, sadhana, etc., you are going to be doing this for the rest of your life. Indeed, even when you achieve the goal, you will still be doing it. Why will you be doing it? Because to not do it doesn't make sense. Doing it is effortless at that point. So indeed, by long practice, however, the mind must attain the state of uprooting material desire. So here we have the reason for why the mind is so uncontrolled. See, if you go through the sentence very, very carefully, very slowly, you see how it all comes together. All right, the mind is uncontrolled. By long practice, however, we can control the mind. Well, why is the mind uncontrolled to begin with? Because of material desire. See, what is it that produces this vritti, this uncontrolled nature of the mind, so that the mind is constantly in flux, constantly going through modifications, constantly being dragged this way and that way, and images floating by like an infinite number of clouds, etc., etc., etc. Why is this the case? Material desires. So in other words, we being in illusion, being infected by this alien strand, this alien illness known as ahankara, false ego. This being the case, we yearn for things outside of ourselves, all of which have very little meaning. That is material desire. That's what produces greed and lust and wanting in this very selfish sort of way. This is why the mind is uncontrolled, because it's constantly seeking things outside of itself. So again, it is a tool that is not under our control. So very nice that it begins in this way. But now let's go on a little bit more. Let's go on to now verse 29 of chapter 10 of Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. The impressions of worldly life then become dispersed all around. When these impressions of material life show a reduction, make firm the composure of your own mind by effort. Beautiful. Let me tell you, when it comes to the Yoga Sutras, which is a different work, in the future I'll be doing a commentary on the entire Yoga Sutras. I'm slowly translating it, actually. It's one of the projects that I'm working on. And I've read the Yoga Sutras at this point, 50 times, something like that. It is amazing how when you read other Vedic scriptures, Shandilya Upanishad comes to mind. There are passages in Mahabharata that come to mind. The teachings of Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, of Krishna to Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and now here, the teachings of Lord Vishnu to Brahma in this specific Vedic text. It sounds exactly like Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Now, the reason why this is the case is not, as some fake academicians would say, just borrowing. It's because it's one system. And it's one system that was understood universally at one time throughout the entire Vedic community. And thus you see this in the Vedic scriptures. Again, for people who have read Yoga Sutras, much of this is going to sound extremely familiar to you, even though it's a radically different text. And it's because yoga is real. the practices are real. It is a science. So thus, these basic tenets of yoga and yoga philosophy are repeated again and again, regardless of the text. But now, that being said, let's go through this. The impressions of worldly life then become dispersed all around. So indeed, when we begin to uproot material desire, and what does that really mean? Going back to the previous verse. When we uproot that material desire, what does that mean? It means we start to become spiritual. It means that we begin to live a life of true spirituality. And in this way, indeed, we begin to uproot all of these false desires that are there. Now, when that occurs, what begins to happen? These modifications of the mind, so in other words, the mind being chaotic, that starts to come to a rest. You see? So with this understanding, now what this verse is beginning to say, those impressions of worldly life, so in other words, again, that material desire causing this craziness in the mind, the chaotic mind, then become dispersed all around. So we have a mind of seemingly, not quite, but seemingly infinite impressions, what are called sanskaras. That's literally the Sanskrit word for impressions, sanskaras. What does that mean? Everything that we experience, everything that we think about, so again, everything perceptual and conceptual, every experience that we have leaves an impression upon the mind. Some are stronger, some are not so strong. You know, we happen to be driving and we see a tree. Oh, all right. That's not going to be a strong impression. We're not going to remember that. Oh, but we have something traumatic happen or something of importance happen, good or bad. Oh, that's going to leave an impression. And then, of course, all the desires. I have aspirations, I have desires in this world. And again, I always have to stress this. It's not that we are to not have desires at all. We are to avoid meaningless desires. Meaningless desires, desires that are of a truly temporal nature. But when we then have these deeper impressions, these now are stored in the storehouse of the mind. And that is why we have a chaotic mind, is because, again, I hope I'm not going to have everyone here rolling on the floor laughing. Imagine a warehouse. You know, there's unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, an Amazon warehouse, I don't know, maybe 5 miles away from here. It is massive beyond words, and of course it's windowless. But you can only imagine how many individual items they're storing in that warehouse. Again, imagine if every single item were to suddenly come to life, and not only that, sprout wings. They have tremendous mobility. And now they're all going crazy in that warehouse, bumping into each other and all chattering and doing things, in accordance with their nature. The music is just playing itself, playing music and on and on. The tools are going crazy. Everything's going wild. That is what the mind is like. The mind is similarly like a storehouse. That's literally what it is. It's like a warehouse. And it has all these varied impressions that we've had, that we've created, not just in this lifetime, but previous lifetimes too. So you can imagine how many of them there are. So now this is what Lord Vishnu is saying here. The impressions of worldly life, so what we were just talking about, all those individual bits of data, then become dispersed all around. So in other words, you can imagine, the boss, the person who's really in charge, going into that warehouse and clapping his hands and ordering all those things. Hey, stop! And so suddenly all those crazy items going wild come to attention and just kind of disperse, go back to where they belong. This is what happens with the yoga process. This is what happens with meditation. Is that indeed all these impressions are going wild in our mind, suddenly they stop and they're dispersed, and now there's calm again. Now there's order again. Now there's peace again. Now we are in control again of our own mind, of that warehouse, that storehouse of information. Now let's go on. When these impressions of material life show a reduction, make firm the composure of your own mind by effort. Very good. Now the first clause is basically just kind of reiterating what was just said, that indeed all these impressions, they begin to become reduced in their chaoticness. But now the second clause is important. make firm the composure of your own mind. So now that we indeed have that nirodha, now that we begin to have that control over the fluctuations of the mind, what now begins to happen is within the mind we have composure. What does that mean? We begin to have calm. We begin to have peace. We begin to have equilibrium. So now we are beginning to achieve precisely what we want with our mind. We are beginning to take this powerful tool of ours known as mind, and now literally we have it under our control. Instead of it controlling us and going wild and bopping us on the head and doing all sorts of crazy things to us, we have grabbed that mind and now we are in control of it. And no, I will use it as I wish. This is my mind. This mind belongs to me. I do not belong to it. Now, these last two words are important. By effort. We have that composure of mind, again, by effort. We in the International Sanatana Dharma Society, how we teach our students is extremely honestly. Again, have fun, feel free. Go to all kinds of new age, this person, that person, and they're not honest. They will try to give you the impression, oh yes, follow what I'm saying, this new thing I came up with, oh, I just discovered something no one has known, all the great saints, I've bested them, follow what I have to say, and oh, you'll have enlightenment real quick, and this is the route, No. What we explain to people is that it takes effort. The idea that you're going to have effortless enlightenment, again, when you see someone looking into a camera and they say, oh, yes, you can have enlightenment without any work, without any effort whatsoever. That's someone who's not enlightened, I guarantee you. You're looking at someone who, stare into their eyes, they are extremely unenlightened and they're lying to you. The Vedic scriptures say again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and we've looked at many of them. And now here again, by effort. By effort. It takes time, and it takes you using your will to choose to control the mind. And what does that mean? It means indeed that you choose to do meditation. For those who have an uncontrolled mind, let me say this in this simple but hopefully powerful way. For those of you who have an uncontrolled mind, there is indeed a path by which in time and by effort, not magic, you can have a controlled mind. It's called meditation. But meditation must be something that's done daily. It must be something that's done systematically in a regular way, with practice, with patience, with detachment, understanding that it happens slowly, little by little. Oh, there are times where there are nice leaps. There are leaps. And then there are dark nights of the soul, where it seems like you're making no progress. And this is the nature of spiritual progress, is that, oh, things are wonderful, oh, it's really hard today. But you continue with the practice anyway. And by your own effort, in time, and ultimately by the grace of God, you will achieve the goal. Now let's go on a little bit more. Very nice. Now we're going to look at verse 30. And of all these verses, this is maybe the one that I like the most because it's very straightforward. And it proceeds in this way. By the achievement of this composure of mind and by giving up of all material associations, then your own action, having gained for you the abode of Vaikuntha, protects you. Beautiful. This is describing the end goal of meditation, of yoga practice, of sadhana. This is what we are trying to achieve, but let's go through this. By the achievement of this composure of mind, so indeed it's continuing with the previous thought of having a composed mind, and by giving up of all material associations. Now, I want to speak about this especially because the first part, again, we've discussed that, what it means to have composure of mind. And by giving up all material associations. Oh, now this is something that also, of course, is crucial, and which we have indeed gone through before. We've seen this many times. So much of what we see, we have seen if we have studied the Vedic scriptures. Again, it's amazing. I need to just say this. The Vedic scriptures, all the Vedic scriptures, all of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of texts in the Vedic scriptures speak with one voice. There's no contradiction. So this also we have seen again and again and again, that we need to give up material associations. Now, what is meant by this? It doesn't mean that we literally, of course, have to become a monk. I always have to repeat this. We can, and that is a path for some people. That is a valid path for some people. Let me tell you, I was a monk indeed. People who know me, they'll tell you I live like a monk now, actually. I often sleep on the floor. People are not aware of this. People who have gone to my office have seen I have a little sleeping bag set up, and I'll sleep on the floor on a sleeping bag. So indeed, a life of austerity, etc. Oh no, that's valid. But let's face it, most people can't live like this. You know, most people are living in the world. So what is meant by giving up material association? Oh, I can't become a monk, a nun. I can't just be a traveling yogi, you know, the stereotype, walking through forests with a staff, etc. No, we can't do that today. So what does it mean to give up material association? What that means is that, indeed, while living in the world, we do not live of the world. So in other words, for those of us who, we have jobs, we have families, we're doing things in the world, you continue doing that. There's nothing materialistic in loving your family and taking care of them. On the contrary, that's a responsibility. On the contrary, that can and should be part of your sadhana to make you stronger. That, yes, I need to go to work so that I can make money, so that I can take care of those who are dependent upon me, and in that way express compassion and love, etc. So what does this mean? To relinquish material association. It means that as much as possible, internally, our motivation should not be something that is materialistic with anything that we do, but rather, everything that we do, in fact, should be done for spiritual purposes and in seva. You know, let me tell you, people who know me, they know that I'm a weightlifter. I go to the gym multiple times a week, and I'm usually there for at least an hour, at least. And I don't do cardio. I'm one of those. I don't do cardio. I lift for a minimum of an hour, and I lift as heavy as I can. And let me tell you, when I'm at the gym, I, of course, see the other people around me, and you can kind of tell, they're trying to get into shape, but it's just for themselves. It's for egotistical purposes. Young guys, they're trying to gain some muscle so that, of course, they can attract young girls, etc., etc., etc. When I'm there, for me, it is part of my seva. It is me becoming healthy, having energy, being strong, such that I can do what I'm doing right now in such a way that I can speak with force. And when I do that, I'm hitting pure muscle. That's why it's seva. And even when I'm at the gym, actually, as I'm lifting, it's almost meditative. Once in a while, I'll finish and I'll open my eyes and I'll see that, there's someone kind of staring at me, wondering why did I just have my eyes closed for the last 90 seconds, 2 minutes, as I'm lifting and focusing on my breath and thinking to myself that, Lord Krishna, this is for you. Please give me perfect health such that I may serve you. This is what is meant by relinquishing material association, that everything that you are doing, you're doing for God, regardless of what it looks like externally. Lifting a weight, driving a car, cooking, going to work, etc. You are doing everything for God. And in this way, you have relinquished material association. Now let's go on. I could say a lot more about that actually, but I'm looking at the time. And because we had some technical difficulties, I want to try to finish these verses. Very good. Now this little clause, again, like I say with so many of these clauses, I could say this with almost every clause in every verse. A person could just kind of read this and think, it's just a meaningless clause, it's just kind of filler, and just go on. Then by your own action, Stop there. You see, again, a person would think, oh, that's just filler. Then by my own action, what? Oh, let's go on. No, we're going to stop there. So again, when it comes to growing spiritually, there are two things that are involved. There is, first and foremost, the grace of God. But then there is our own action. There is our own effort. And they work cooperatively. Cooperatively. But indeed, too many people think, and today especially, oh, why? You know, how blunt can I be? I'm an American. You know, we live in the West where people are prosperous and lazy. We want everything given to us. Whereas 100 years ago, very often people lived in such a way that if you wanted a bucket of water, you had to walk a mile with a bucket, empty, and hopefully bring it back full. But today, everyone's lazy. People just want enlightenment. They just want things very, very quickly, very, very fast. Well, no. You want to grow spiritually. You want to attain what? A bucket of water? No. Even for that, yet you had to walk a mile 100, 200 years ago. No. What do you want? You want God. You want the source of every single bucket of water, of every single lake, every single pond, every single ocean of water in existence. You want God. You want the highest. Oh, but I'll just watch this YouTube video and I'll have instant enlightenment. No. You must engage in your own action, in your own effort, in such a way that, like anything of value that you want to gain in this world, do you not have to work hard? Oh, I want a good job. Well, you better get a good education. You better make sure that you do well in the interview. Once you have the job, you better make sure you work hard, otherwise they'll let you go, etc. And of course, a million examples. You want an education. Oh, you want a master's degree. You want a PhD. You want to become a doctor. Everyone respects doctors, MDs. Oh, doctor. I wish I was a doctor. Oh, you can be a doctor. Kill yourself in school for about 15 years. You'll be an MD, etc. We know that with anything of value in this world, you need to work hard. You have to have action and effort on your part. Oh, but yet, I want God, the source of all existence. Oh, but that's cheap. No. By our own effort, by our own action, we achieve this. So, then, your own action, and then there's a clause here. Having gained for you the abode of Vaikuntha. But then let's go on to the last clause. Protects you. Protects you. Your own action. In other words, having followed this path. This is an alternative and really clearer way of understanding what's being said here. By your own action protects you. By our indeed doing sadhana, doing meditation every day. No excuses. No excuses. You see, again, we have a serious job. Oh, the boss doesn't take excuses. You know, oh, we're in graduate school. We have an important thesis we have to do. And the day comes and you say to the professor, oh, sorry, it was just so sunny this last week. I just decided to stroll every day. The professor is going to say, all right, goodbye, etc. Without excuses. If we are to do our sadhana, do actual spiritual practice with patience and keeping our eyes on what is that goal, we will have full protection. We will have full protection. But now, this is what's interesting. Now let's get to this very important clause. Then your own action having gained for you. So in other words, again, they're connected, having gained for you. Because you did your sadhana with faith, because you did your sadhana with patience, with vairagya, with detachment, not trying to show off to the world, not, oh yes, no, over here, look at these mantras I'm saying, oh, look at the meditation. No, not to show off, not to show off on a YouTube video. Oh, look what I can do. Oh, look, I'm levitating. As if these people could. No. Doing these actions in the proper way. What happens? We gain the abode of Vaikuntha. That is, we gain the highest liberation. And this is in the Sanskrit. We gain Vaikuntha. What does that mean? We gain personal liberation. That is, we are in the transcendent realm, the very kingdom of God, which is eternal. and we are with God himself. If we practice Sanatana Dharma, practice yoga, practice meditation every single day with all the qualifiers that I said before, patience, etc., we will achieve Vaikuntha. We will achieve the highest of all realms. Now, let's go on. Just have a little bit more to go through. Now we're going to look at verse 31. By effort, repeated many times, bring your mind by slow steps to concentration on one aim, ekantam, one aim. Never attempt to do this rapidly. So very nice. Let's look at this. So first of all, again, I'm not the one repeating this. This is Vishnu repeating this again and again and again. By what? Everyone together. By what?
Your own effort.
Effort. By effort. So again, by our own doing, by our own action, not inaction, not just sitting there and having wishful thinking and playing with magic with a K and again, playing with spiritual things and experimenting. No. By our own effort, and this is important, repeated many times. So this process of trying to control the mind, it's not that we sit, we do meditation once and, oh, all right, that's nice, I have a controlled mind now. It's repeated effort. We will attempt to control the mind. We fail. We will attempt to control the mind. We fail. We fail. We fail. We fail. We fail. We fail. Who in the audience has ever attempted to learn a serious skill? Again, an instrument, something serious. Oh, you tried to become a serious coder, something where it takes skill. You fail the first however many times, and it's difficult. And the first many times that you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm trying to play this violin and it sounds like cats dying. What is this? And I've been trying this for months now, and I fail and I fail. Well, of course, every human being who has tried to learn a skill, a real skill, an important skill, they've experienced this. And again and again. So repeated many times. So by effort, repeated many times, you don't give up. Bring your mind by slow steps. Oh, very important. So again, we tell you the truth. We're honest with you. You're going to practice meditation. You're going to practice yoga. No, you're not going to achieve the goal immediately. It's slow steps. Slow steps. Bring your mind by slow steps to concentration, that is full awareness. Dharana means concentration or full awareness on one aim. And the sentence ends there. So this is the definition of meditation. What is meditation? I've given this definition hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. You have that one object of meditation. There is no such thing as objectless meditation. That's called being a brick lying on the side of the road. No, there is an object, always, of meditation. What that object is will vary in accordance with the person's sincerity and what they're truly seeking. If a person is absolutely sincere, absolutely honest, and if they wish to know the highest, then that object of meditation is variously named Sriman Narayana, Vishnu, Krishna, etc. That's the object. But there has to be one object, one aim. Eka antam. Eka antam. Eka means one. Anta means the end. One aim. Not 15, not, all right, I'm going to meditate on this for now for 3 days. That's boring. Let me try this now. Let me try. No. You have one aim throughout your life, throughout the totality of your life. Very good. Now let's go on. This last sentence of this verse is interesting. Never attempt to do this rapidly. So we're being told by the greatest of gurus, the greatest of acharyas, Adi Guru, the first of gurus, and that is God himself, we're being told, never attempt to do this rapidly. What's meant by rapidly? It means, again, having this false expectation that, oh yes, I'm going to, I began reading about spiritual things a year ago, and I began trying to meditate a month ago, and I began this one practice 2 days ago. Oh, why don't I have success already? No, never attempt to do this rapidly. We have to understand that, again, it takes time, it takes effort, and we have to have patience. Kshama, patience. Now let's look at this next verse, and the next several we're going to try to go through a little quicker. This is now verse 32. He who attempts to bring his mind under control too quickly brings down upon himself obstructions to gaining his object, or else becomes liable to disorders of various kinds. How interesting. So now this is continuing with the same idea that we must not go too rapidly. But now it's explaining why. So he who attempts to bring his mind under control too quickly, there are several things that occur to the person. First of all, he brings down upon himself obstructions to gaining his object. How interesting. So one would think that if you have your object, and let's just cut to the chase. Let's say, oh, my object is God. I want to know God. So now I'm going to try to meditate on God, but I have the idea that, oh, I'm going to do this fast and furious, and I have to know God now as fast as possible. And I'm going to even sit and try to meditate for 5 hours, 10 hours a day, every single day, until finally I have God, and I expect to know God within a week. Number one, how egotistical and how pretentious and how arrogant. And how disrespectful that we think we can force God into our consciousness. That we can force this. What happens instead as a result of trying to do this too rapidly is that, of course, we end up being frustrated. Those are some of the obstructions that is mentioned here, that we bring about obstructions to gaining the object. We begin to get frustrated. We begin to lose patience. We begin to become too attached even to the idea of knowing God. To be attached to God is good, but to be attached to the idea of, oh, and I have to know God now. God, where are you? Come on, come on, come on. That's not going to deliver God to us. We have to understand God is a person. God is not a thing. See, again, there are two kinds of so-called spiritual people in the world. There are the individuals who see God as a thing, and they just want power. They want to wield God like a hammer, like I've said many times. And then there are the real people, the real spiritual people, and they understand that, no, I am actually the hammer to be wielded by God, and, God, wield me at your will, as your hammer. They are the individuals who understand that, no, we are here to serve God. And those individuals don't get frustrated. They understand that God, being the eternal, well, everything happens in God's time. And God's time is very different from illusory time. And let's go on. Or else becomes liable to disorders of various kinds. Oh, this, I wish we had more time. This alone we could talk about for a long time. Again, if a person is overly eager, and again, in a very arrogant, egotistical sort of way, what ends up happening is that they grow their ego rather than the opposite. You see, this is what's interesting. Beginners in spirituality don't know this. And when I say beginners, this could be people practicing for 20 years. Forget about the person out there who you started practicing, quote unquote, practicing spirituality for a year. No, we're talking about by beginners. Oh, you could have been on a path for 5, 10, even 20 years. What is interesting is people don't quite understand that it is when you are practicing spirituality that you need to especially be your most careful when it comes to the attack of false ego. And indeed, false ego is so subtle and so powerful to the point where it will even try to use your own spirituality against you. You practice, you do meditation, and something interesting happens. You do have some sort of realization or some truly wonderful, powerful experience. The person with humility, the person who sees the long game, understands, oh, that was wonderful. I just had a profound experience. Let me continue. That's the person who will have success. versus the other person. Oh, I just had a profound experience. I'm enlightened now. And they start, of course, to use that to grow the ego, to grow the false ego, to deepen their illusion. So this is what it's meant by, they go through various disorders of all sorts. The ego itself becomes more stimulated, interestingly, by the very practice of spirituality. This is why we want to understand ego, false ego, at its subtlest power, at its subtlest influence. Look at so-called spiritual people who allow their ego to run away with whatever little baby attainment they've had. This is why it is when we are on the path, when we're doing meditation every day, when we say to ourselves, this is wonderful, I have a nice spiritual lifestyle now. I'm meditating every day and I'm reading the scriptures. This is very nice and I'm having nice realizations and I am great. Wow, I am really great spirit. You see, the ego starts to take over. It's one thing to acknowledge progress. We want to acknowledge progress, but in a detached sort of way. That, this is good. Today in meditation, it was better than yesterday. Thank you, God. Thank you. And you go on, and you go on, and you go on. Now, this verse is warning us of this. Don't try to go too quickly. Your ego will take over. Finally, we have one more verse that we're going to look at. And this is verse 33, chapter 10 of Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. Just as one brings the irrepressible factor of lust under control by slow stages and by long, protracted effort, in the same manner, the great-minded sages bring their minds under discipline. This is a wonderful way to end this section of verses that we're looking at and this talk that we're doing. So let's look at this. Now, what is being compared here is the factor of lust versus control over the mind. Okay? So, just as one brings the irrepressible factor of lust, let's stop there. Irrepressible, in the same way that lust is something that for so many people seems irrepressible. It seems like something that, my Lord, I have no control over this. Well, as we were saying a little while ago at the very beginning of this talk, mind is the same way. With mind, it seems like, my God, how can I have any control? Indeed, again, Arjuna, the greatest of warriors, not some internet-addicted, video game-addicted person of 2024. One of the most powerful of warriors said, to control my mind, Krishna, it is easier to control the wind than to control my own mind. So just as one brings the irrepressible factor of lust under control, so in the same way that one can do this, we can bring lust under control. We can bring all of these instinctual factors under our absolute and full control. Let there be no doubt about that. But how? It's explained. By slow stages, again, and long protracted effort. Now, why are these things repeated again and again and again? Because the people who wrote this were dumb? Really? Or because we are? And they knew that we would be. When you see something repeated again and again and again, you're right, Govinda. You have the right answer. He always gets it. When you see something repeated again and again and again in the Vedic scriptures, it's not because they ran out of ideas. It's because they're trying to explain something that we really need to know. We may think, okay, I get it. No, you don't. You get the words. You get the concept. It's not incorporated into your existence, however. So this is why these two things are repeated. So how do you control lust? How do you control your mind? By long, protracted effort and by slow stages. So it takes time and it takes effort. It takes time and it takes effort to grow spiritually. So in the same manner, the great-minded sages, the Mahamunis, the great-minded sages, these individuals who are not just sages, but they are enlightened beings, they bring their minds under discipline. So in the same way, by working on their sadhana slowly, knowing that it takes time, but also it takes their effort. They can't just sit around and hope that the law of attraction is going to help them. No, they have to do. They have to do. They have to do. They have to use their will. They have to create a little bit of a sweat, doing their meditation, doing their yoga, reading the Vedic scriptures. They have to actually do effort. What happens? They bring their minds under discipline. In other words, they achieve the goal. They achieve the goal of what is the entire theme of this talk for today: how to have control over your own mind. By following everything that has been said here in these last several verses that we've looked at, you too can eventually come to the point where you have radical control, complete control, absolute control over your mind. In the same way that you may have control over other factors, of your body, of things. You have mobility. You can do this, do that, do so many things. You can decide, oh, I'm going to eat now. I'm going to do this now. And you do it. In the same way, you can have complete control over your mind. You can literally say to your mind, all right, mind, now we choose to think of this and to figure out this problem. All right. Now we wish to recall this memory. Oh, from this lifetime or indeed previous lifetimes, you can have recall. You have control over the mind. And once you have control over your mind, then there's almost nothing that you're incapable of doing. You have self-mastery at that point. So, to conclude this is what we are to do today, even with all the challenges that we have around us, forcing us to have an uncontrolled mind. Again, we have so many things being hurled at us, at our senses, so much stimuli, etc. Despite all that, we are to have self-mastery. And when we have that self-mastery, we can do anything. But more importantly, not just anything, we can now use who we are in the service of Dharma, in order to bring good to this world, in order to bring joy to those around us, in order to bring wisdom, in order to help those who are in pain right now, those who are suffering. We now are the sort of person who we are equipped now to help them. So this is why we are to do this, not just for ourselves. I always have to remind people of this. When it comes to yoga, meditation, self-realization, etc., do we do this for ourselves? Well, we are ourselves, so we have no choice. Of course, we do. Do we do it only for ourselves? Absolutely not. We do it in seva, in service to God, and we also do what we do in order to help others around us. We make ourselves our best such that we can help others to come to their best as well. So please practice this. Practice everything that's been said in these last several verses, and you will have self-mastery. With that, we are a little bit over time, but let me ask our people here especially, do we have time? Should we take some questions? Are we good? All right. Very good. All right. Everyone out in the audience, you should be very happy. Our people here want me to take questions, so we're going to take questions. So thank them. We will take questions for a short time. And with that, again, let me signal to everyone that please, you can feel free to ask questions now. And if anyone here in the audience has any questions, you also please just feel free. And indeed, we're not going to take questions for very long, just for a short time, but please feel free. Hopefully everyone was able to migrate over to the new live stream with that technical difficulty that we had. Very good. Questions are streaming in now. Good. I'm just looking at these questions. Here's a very nice question. Namaste Acharya. How does one overcome despair when trying to master our mind and experiencing failure? Good question. Very, very good question. Thank you for asking that. And yes, let me give you the answer to this actually. Number one, by realizing that again, you're not alone. By realizing that, experiencing some failures, pretty much everyone who has been on the spiritual path, not just today, but in previous times as well. It's natural to experience failures, especially in the beginning. Again, look at the story of Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. He got so depressed to the point where this powerful warrior, who, as I said a moment ago, he could defeat 10,000 enemy soldiers alone. Give him a bow and enough arrows. He can defeat 10,000 warriors, soldiers by himself. And he got depressed. He went into despair. He felt that he was a failure in life. He took those powerful arrows and that powerful bow that you can imagine probably was so heavy, it probably would take 5 grown men today to even lift it up. And he dropped them to the ground. And he turned to Krishna. He said, Krishna, I am in despair. I don't know what to do. I turn to you. Please, you guide me. So what to speak of people today? Yes, we will experience failure. And what we need to do is to understand that it's not a reflection on us. It's a reflection on the fact that, yes, we are in illusion. We have been in illusion. But we have to congratulate ourselves for the fact that we are now on the path to rid ourselves of illusion. See, I tell this to sincere people all the time. You need to give yourself a break. You need to not be so hard on yourself, meaning in this way, meaning that thinking, I'm a failure, I'm worthless, I can't do this, etc., etc. No, we must never think that way. Failure, again, going forward and then taking a step back, 2 steps forward, a step back, in spiritual life is something that's natural. The reason why is because, as we were saying again and again and again, slow and effort, it is difficult. Why is it difficult? You see, I always hear the voices in my mind of, the little chorus of skeptics out there. But why is it so difficult? It shouldn't be so difficult to know God. Yes, it should. Like I was saying before, you want to achieve anything of value in this world, not worthless things, not, I made a little sandcastle on the beach. That's fun, nice, good for you, a little pat on the head. No, you want to do something of value in this world. It's difficult. But now you're talking about doing that in the presence of which every other thing of value pales to insignificance. Becoming an MD is nothing compared to this. Becoming a master musician is nothing compared to this. Becoming the greatest scholar on earth in this field is nothing compared to this attainment. You wish to know God. It's going to be difficult. Now, all that being said, here comes the succor. Here comes the aid. We also have the grace of God. And that is what makes the path also joyful. While still difficult, it's also joyful. Ask any individual who is a sincere spiritual practitioner and has been doing it for some time. They'll tell you, yes, it takes effort, but it's also joyful. It's also something where I have glimpses of God, and that is what spurs me on. Because when I have those little glimpses, not literally with the physical eyes, you have experiences where you'll, in a way, inwardly, you'll have a glimpse of that which is the goal. And it's so sweet, it's so powerful that you cannot but stop. You cannot but stop. So this is the thing. Understand again that, this is the nature of the path. You are not a failure. The path is difficult because what it is that you seek to achieve is the greatest of all things. And more, pat yourself on the back that you've chosen this path, that you have chosen to know that which is the highest, that than which nothing higher can be conceived. And you've chosen this. You should give yourself nothing but with humility, congratulations. Don't be hard on yourself. Understand that if you continue with sincerity, you will achieve the goal. You will achieve the goal no matter what. So never ever give up. I'm going to say one last thing about this, and that is this. This is also why association is so important. You see, remember a few verses back, it said, oh, we have to avoid material associations. Conversely, we are to gain spiritual association as much as possible. What does that mean? We are to surround ourselves with fellow practitioners in any way that we can. If that means, oh, physically, they live in our same neighborhood, our same area, etc., very nice. If they don't, and we have to do it online, that's good too. This is maybe the main reason why we started our Discord server, is so that there is a place where, at least online, people can have live discussions with other people who are also on the path. And at times when you're feeling, just feeling down on yourself, feeling depressed, etc. How did you say this? Feeling despair and experiencing failure. Yeah, when you're feeling despair, talk to other people who are also on the same path, and that will give you inspiration. You will know that, all right, I'm not alone. See, you also experience despair very often because you feel alone in one way or another. You're not alone. There are other people also on the path trying to grow. And they're also experiencing ups and downs, but mostly ups. And as a result of that, they will encourage you. So continue to associate with people as much as possible, on Discord, in person if you can, anywhere that you can. So I hope that is helpful. Very good. Give me a moment here, please, as I look at some more of these questions. Very good. All right. Here's a three-parter, so I will read all three of these. Namaste, Sri Acharya-ji. I pray for your continued good health. Thank you, and likewise. If a yogi and bhakta attains the clarity of vision such that they can observe the senses, including the mind, effortlessly, being then able to rest in that pure or neutral awareness and direct the senses and the mind with control for things such as mantra meditation, with full awareness within the mind. Should such individuals also, as a meditative practice, realize a Vishnu Tattva Murti within the mind and also serve it as a supplementary practice? Apologize for the lengthy question. You don't have to apologize. It's a very, very good question. And let me give you the answer to this. Yes. That's the short answer. The long answer is that what I mean by yes is that yes, what you're describing is a advanced and very powerful sadhana, where it comes to the point where this is manasa seva. You've heard me use this term in the past, and there are many different derivatives and forms of manasa seva. That is, of doing seva, of doing service within one's mind. And this is one of the processes in which, indeed, you begin with mantra meditation, but then this is what is called the turiya stage of mantra meditation. I've mentioned this. I haven't gone radically deeply, just a little bit in the past, but there are the three forms of mantra meditation: saying aloud, whispering, and then within one's mind. But then that fourth stage is when the mantra, the sound vibration, the name becomes pure name, and it comes to the point where you begin to realize the name is non-different from God, and you begin to experience the actual form of God as name. And you realize that they are one. That indeed, as we've said many times, the name of God is non-different from God. We've heard this a million times. Prabhupada said this a million times, so many different gurus. Well, what does that mean? In advanced forms of meditation, it comes to the point where, indeed, we experience this, that we're still saying the name, but we also have the deep inner realization that it's non-different from the Murti. The name is the Murti of Narayana, Murti is the name, etc. And we begin to visualize actual Murti form within. So, yes, this is a more advanced form of meditation. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. As far as there's another question here, the significance of the number 108. There are hundreds of significances, and let me just say, rather than me answering this, our students can easily answer this. You can look this up yourself. There are all kinds of correspondences. 108 times such and such is the distance between the Earth and the Moon, and all sorts of correspondences that are there, such that if you understand the significance of 108 and 9, not just 108 in and of itself, but also the number 9, you understand that it leads to an exhibition of the harmony of the universe itself, among other things. It also is symbolic of the 108 principal gopis, 108 Upanishads, 108 indeed Pancharatras, etc. So there are many reasons why the number 108 are very important. But again, my students probably can answer that for you. But it's a good question. No, 108 is a very important number in Sanatana Dharma. Very good. Very good. Namaste, Acharyaji. Is there a difference between Sharanagati and Prapatti in practice and meaning? No, there isn't. Atmanivedana is another term that means the same thing. It means surrender of oneself to God. They are just different terms that are used in different contexts depending on the rishi and what they are trying to stress in their text. It could even be that in some texts, in let's say one Vedic text, all different words are used at the same time in accordance with what's being said in that verse. So again, these are all just alternative ways of saying surrender, self-surrender to God. That's what all these terms mean. And again, there are a minimum of 3, there are even more. It's kind of like how even for liberation, there are many different terms. Is there a slight variation of meaning? Sure, but they're all pointing to the exact same thing. So for liberation, for example, there's moksha, there's mukti, there's nirvana, there's vairagya, etc., etc. These all mean liberation. And indeed, they can all be translated into English as liberation. There is slight philosophical meaning as far as all the various words, and they're used in different ways. So Kaivalya is the term that Patanjali uses, for example, and not many other people do. They tend to use moksha, mukti. He uses Kaivalya. So that's a very rare term, and yet Patanjali himself, who is Ananta, who is Ananta Shesha Naga, he uses that term. But again, it's just due to precision. He's writing about yoga psychology, and he's writing specifically about Sankhya, about separation of materiality and consciousness. That's why he uses Kaivalya for liberation, for example, because what does that word mean? Aloneness. It also means just liberation. But again, the people who quote-unquote wrote, who really revealed the Vedic scriptures, to call them geniuses would be insulting them. These people wrote with such precision, it is mind-boggling. So again, this is why did Patanjali use the word Kaivalya instead of moksha? Well, he's speaking in Sankhya terms. And what is Sankhya? Sankhya, very simply, is separation of Purusha and Prakriti, of consciousness and matter. So that being the case, Kaivalya is the more precise term to use, and that means aloneness, meaning separation of that consciousness from that which is not consciousness. So in the same way, these various terms for surrender, there's the slightest, subtlest difference between them, but really they're all pointing to the same thing. So I hope that answers the question. Very good. Give me a moment to look at some more of these questions. Good. Here's a nice question, actually. It is Namaste. Are temples necessary, or can we worship at a lake or on a hill? Very nice question. They are not necessary, but they're extremely helpful. They're extremely helpful. You know, it's kind of like asking, is it necessary to do meditation, for example? What did you say here? I'm sorry, one moment. By a lake or on a hill. Is it necessary to do meditation by a lake or a hill? It's not necessary, but that's definitely more helpful than, let's say, doing meditation in a place that's more chaotic. So there are certain things that help. So as far as temples, doing meditation in a temple is very helpful because it is a place that is dedicated very specifically to doing meditation. That's the first thing. The second thing, and I'm going to go slightly deep into this, because there is a little problem with the psychology that is here. Temples are not there to help us. You see, again, this is where we have this difficulty when it comes to spirituality. So many people today, and truthfully, we've seen this problem, we've seen the thread of this problem all throughout history. But we see it today more than we ever have, and that is the idea of thinking of spirituality in a somewhat self-centered sort of way. That, oh, how does it help me? The temple is the palace of God. The temple does not exist to help us. The temple exists such that we have a place where we can go and we can with humility offer our obeisances to God. So that's the purpose of the temple. The temple is not, oh yes, how can it help me to deepen my meditation? No, the question is, am I worthy of even stepping foot in this temple? Because it is quite literally the home of God. And it is a place where I can express my bhakti, my devotion. So this is crucial. And this is why I get onto certain themes where I try to explain to people in the Kali Yuga, and specifically in 2024, people whose minds are infested with selfishness, self-centeredness, that when it comes to spirituality, we have to stop thinking this way. How does this help me? How does that help me? How does this mantra help me? Will this practice help me to do this? The way that a person grows spiritually is not by thinking in such a way, because that is simply spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual selfishness, which, as I said a little while ago, the subtlest form of ego is when we think we're practicing spirituality, but instead we're just boosting our ego. Rather, the way that we grow spiritually is not by always asking, oh, does this help me? But rather, why does God desire this? And more, how may I serve God? So not that God is there to please me or anything connected to God, temples, practices, pujas, this, that, the other. It's not that those things are there to please me, but rather I am here to please God with what I do. Something very personal. I can tell you every single thing that I have ever done spiritually in the totality of my existence has been solely to serve God and to please God. And that's from the very beginning, as far back as my memory goes. That I never thought to myself, oh, this is a great practice. Yes, I can gain mystic powers and I can get stronger internally and do this and do that. That never motivated me. I always saw that as, even as a child, I realized, oh, that's like reading a superhero comic book. That's like, oh, what radiation can I expose myself to so I can gain powers? Oh, look, I can fly now. Oh, look, I can punch my my hand through steel. That's childish. That's for children when you think in that way and you think it's spiritual. Spirituality does not exist to serve us, but we exist to serve it. The same with temples. Temples don't just exist as places for us to go and gain mastery over ourselves. Oh, they're helpful. Absolutely. If we have a chance to meditate, it's good to meditate anywhere. It's nice to meditate in a temple, in nature. Oh, I love meditating in nature. When it's warm here, there are certain parks I go to. Oh, I love to go and meditate. I'll go by myself. I'll go with one, two, several of my students. I've always done that. And it's a wonderful thing to do. But ultimately, we are to think, what can I do such that it can most reduce my ego? Again, the verses we were looking at. Eradicate my material desires, help me to have control over my mind, and ultimately in such a way that with humility I'm serving God. When that is our motivation, we have now removed every blockage, every obstacle in our way to growing spiritually. So this is how we are to think. So to meditate in nature versus a temple, they're all good. They're all good. But the temple doesn't just exist to help us. It is the palace of God, and we go there to humbly offer our obeisances to God and to serve Him. Good. What do you think? How are we doing? One more question? All right, one more, and then we'll end there. Very good. And so many questions. So give me a moment. There's so many questions here. I'm just going to take one more. So sadly, I apologize to those for whom I couldn't get to your question, but we're getting very much over time at this point. Good. Here is a good question. I'm going to answer this because it has to do very directly with what we've just been talking about. And that is the danger of egotism, the danger of being a person who you think you're spiritual, but you're just using spirituality to boost your ego. The question is, given that we're in the Kali Yuga and people are prone to egotism as it is, with meditation and spiritual practices being potential ego enhancers, are there people who shouldn't engage in spiritual practice? Yes. Oh, yes. That may shock people. In fact, as I was reading it, I knew what the answer was, and I knew it would shock some people. Because some of the people would give you the other answer. They would say, oh, no, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how egotistical you are. Hey, spirituality is good for everyone. No, actually. If a person is egotistical to the extreme, to the point where they are truly a narcissistic sociopath, you hear terms like this all the time. You know, it's almost one of these things that, oh, it's a fad now on YouTube. You see suggested videos all the time. I see them. Oh, how to know if someone in your life is a narcissist, is a sociopath, blah, blah, blah. If you haven't encountered such people, it's hard to truly understand. I've encountered many such people, sadly. And when you encounter such people, you understand that these people are egotistical and are in illusion and are in darkness to the point where, A, they should actually not be allowed to play with spirituality. The reason why is they'll only damage themselves and all those who are around them by doing so. And B, they are not capable of deriving benefit anyway. They are so lost to the point where if they were to attempt to actually practice legitimate spirituality, they would only commit offense. They would actually make it worse for themselves. Now, all that being said, we need to also understand that, of course, we believe, and this is what is so nice about Sanatana Dharma, we're not Abrahamists. We understand, not believe in, we understand the truth of reincarnation. We understand that we are eternal beings. We understand that in one lifetime a person could be evil incarnate, and then next lifetime, oh, not so bad. The lifetime after that, oh, pretty good person. The lifetime after that, a truly giving, beneficent person. The lifetime after that, maybe a yogi. Or it could go in the opposite way, or it could be any combination thereof. So as I say this, that, oh, people who are too demonically egotistical, no, they should not attempt to do something that is quite literally the mirror opposite of their very being. That will break them. No, they shouldn't try that. It is with the understanding that in that lifetime they can't. But doesn't mean that they can't in the future. And it doesn't mean that in the subtlest of ways we can't attempt to help them from very far away. You know, we avoid the association with the demonic. But we understand that, oh, at some point, could this demonic person maybe somehow on YouTube, wherever, hear the Bhagavad Gita being recited in Sanskrit and at the very least say, that is very beautiful. That's very nice. And then they go on doing their demonic things. But that little seed that was planted will help them. Yes, that is what we are to hope for. You know, and this is just being very logical and very realistic. You know, if a person is born without legs, are they, see, it's like asking this, if a person is born without legs, can we train them to be a pro basketball player? The answer is no. In the same way, the answer is simply no. If a person is demonically egotistical, can they practice pure spirituality? The answer is no. That doesn't mean that something will change in the future, though. Something can change in the future. So this is a rare individual. You know, the sort of people who we're talking about who are truly demonic, oh, this is very rare. The vast majority of individuals can be helped and are individuals who should practice spirituality in a very serious sort of way. So I hope that answers the question. The vast majority of us, we don't have to worry about it. We should do our best to practice pure and authentic spirituality. So with that, again, I have to apologize for those individuals who I didn't have a chance to get to your question. We tried our best here, but again, we will be doing this again next time, next Sunday. Please join us then. And just to reiterate these things that I said earlier very, very quickly. When you have a chance, the link is here in the chat. Please feel free to join our Discord server, our Discord forum. Join right now or immediately after this live stream is over if you can. Join us on there. You'll see that the International Sanatana Dharma Society has hundreds of devotees who are on there and who will happily engage in discussions with you, who will answer your questions. I always have to tell people this because people sometimes don't get it. Don't join our Discord server if you have the idea that you're going there to teach us something. You will never teach us anything. If you want to go there and learn and humbly ask questions, we have individuals who will answer your questions very, very nicely, authoritatively, in accordance with the Vedic scriptures, who will encourage you spiritually, philosophically, even with challenges that you're going through in your life. But you need to approach sincerely and with humility. Please join our Discord server. Join our community on there. Go to dharmacentral.com when you can. All of our books are available there. Subscribe to this channel, the Dharma Nation channel here on YouTube. We also have, if you look at the description of this video, I always forget to say this. If you look toward the bottom, you'll see that there are links to much of the rest of our social media. Please join all of that. We are on Telegram. We are on Twitter. We are on Gab. We are on all sorts of other video platforms. We're everywhere. Please join us on all those places as well. And with that, we will stop here. I thank you very much for joining us. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana. And between now and the next time that we get together, I ask you all that you please take very good care of yourselves in every way.